And joining us now in an exclusive interview is Dr. Abdul Dardery, the former Foreign Affairs spokesman for President Morsi. He is live in Minneapolis. Thanks for joining us and welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
In your estimation, is there such a huge number in the death toll? Why are the numbers so different?
The Egyptian state TV, the Egyptian government have always been lying to us in Egypt. Egyptians don't trust them, and I call upon the civilized world not to trust. This is not a government. This is a coup government trying to oppress and kill the Egyptian people. What took place yesterday? We have the names of 2,600 as of yesterday, and the numbers increase by the hour. People are killed as I am talking with you now. So don't believe the Egyptian media. It has always been lying. And what is happening in Egypt? You know, can you ever imagine the Egyptian army, after killing the Egyptian people, burn their bodies? They burned the hospital. It was a 6-story building. They burned all of it, and so many faces. They wanted to hide the crime, but there is no way they're gonna run away. The Egyptian people will have it to say tomorrow and after. We will continue to march peacefully against the coup. The coup should not be recognized. And I call upon President Obama and the European Union and all the civilized world, China, the 5 countries in the Security Council, I call upon them, stand up for humanity, for human rights, for the rule of law in Egypt. The Egyptian people, at the end of the day, do not deserve to be killed because they won the election. The Egyptian people preferred ballots than bullets. And now we're being killed in the streets of Egypt. And unfortunately, there is this assumption that European Union, the United States, and other countries are tacitly supporting the coup.
Well, Dr. Dardery, I do want to ask you about that in just a moment. I do want to get to that issue. But I also want to touch on the march that you mentioned that is planned for Friday, and some marches also planned in conjunction with the Muslim Brotherhood against them. But there are accusations being thrown around on both sides, and some are saying that the Muslim Brotherhood is also to blame with the churches that are being burned down, the Christian buildings that are also being burned, with the death of police officers and the like. Want to get your reaction to that.
Let me make it very clear. Christians in Egypt are our brothers and sisters. It is not allowed any church. That is the history of the Egyptian government, the corrupt Egyptian government. You know, just a few days before January 25th revolution, the Egyptian government of Hosni Mubarak attacked a major church in Alexandria, and they blamed it on the Islamists, on the Muslim Brotherhood. This is the tactic of the police state. They would like to create a mutiny in the country, and this is how they succeed, divide and conquer. This is their strategy. But the Christians are our brothers and sisters. We do condemn any act of violence against the churches, against our brothers and sisters in the Christian community, against anyone. We're very peaceful. We've been peaceful for the past 40 days. In fact, for decades now. We are very peaceful. We want democracy. We want a political move, and this is what we are for. Concerning tomorrow, believe me or not, it is not about the Muslim Brotherhood. It's about the Egyptian people. Muslim Brotherhood do not represent more than 20 to 30% of the population. Now you will see millions of people are pouring in the streets. Most of the intellectuals in Egypt are calling for the coup to come to an end. There is no way an Egyptian will accept a police state or the military to rule over us again. We want a democracy outside. The army has to be outside.
Dardery?
The police has to be outside of the democratic process.
Dr. Dardery, I'd like to get your reaction to this. You know, Egyptian officials are continuing to claim that they had no choice but to act. I'd like you to listen to this interview and get your comment and your reaction afterward.
Please. Leaving it unattended would have caused, the country to get into a real civil war. It had to be put, an end had to be put to that. Maximum restraint and techniques were put in place so that casualties, inevitable casualties actually, would be put to the minimum.
That senior Egyptian official, foreign official, saying that the casualties were inevitable. Could there ever be a compromise at this point?
Of course, it is always possible as long as the army out of the political game. The job of the army is to protect the borders of the country, and the political forces should be able to meet together and come to a compromise. One compromise is, let us have a parliamentary election and let all the political forces participate in it. And maybe after we have our own government elected by the Egyptian people, there is no way for us to accept the coup. The coup will never be accepted by the Egyptian people. So one option outside of the existing crisis is the parliamentary election. And maybe later on we can have presidential election and the country moves on. All political forces.
Speaking of the president, Dr. Dardery, I had
Yes.
to ask you this a few weeks ago. Any word about Mohamed Morsi and how he is doing, where he is right now?
Elaine, is not just Mohamed Morsi. The whole country is kidnapped by the police and by the military. Can you believe an elected, democratically elected president? We don't know his whereabouts. Now it is becoming a jungle. A defense minister was appointed by President Morsi. He deposes the president and he cancels the constitution and cancels the elected parliament, the upper house. That is impossible. If might is right, this is a call for a disaster. What the military did yesterday is another Egyptian Holocaust against peaceful protesters, innocent Egyptian, and all they were there for is their democracy. They wanted their voices to be respected and their votes to be recognized. That is what Egyptians are for.
Is Morsi safe?
We don't know. He's incommunicado. We don't know anything about him. We don't know his whereabouts. He couldn't even meet his family. He could not meet his doctor. We don't know. That is not acceptable. That should be condemned by all the civilized world. It is wrong that this happens to President Morsi. What he did? He was elected by the Egyptian people to run the affair for 4 years, and after that, he is supposed to come for election. Either we keep him as a president or we remove him and bring another one. It has to be the will of the Egyptian people. Unfortunately, from July 3rd, the will of the Egyptian people is violated, and Egyptians will not accept that violation to continue.
All right, Dr. Abdul Dardery, we appreciate your time. Thank you again for joining us from Minneapolis.
Thank you, Elaine, for having me. Thank you.